Hello YouTube, this is Mahadeva the Thunder Wizard. And I think we've been getting some new people coming onto the channel. And so I thought I would go over some stuff that I find very interesting, which is the understanding that our ancestors had about all the different kinds of spiritual beings in our universe. And Abrahamic monotheism came around a couple thousand years ago and turned everything into basically there's one God and there are angels and demons and that's it. So it makes things very boring. But every single religion on the planet, if you go far enough back in time, you will find that the original spiritual practice of all people was what we call shamanism, which is really not an accurate term, but it means that we live in a dynamic universe. And the goal of spiritual practice is to create a dynamic balance. So even the idea of reaching nirvana or enlightenment or moksha, those things are newer understandings that came about. And so we have a lot of modern misunderstandings, in my opinion, about spirituality. And one is the belief that what we're supposed to do is reach this state of perfection where things just sort of get static and don't go anywhere. And that's actually called death. When nothing's happening, that's, when you've died. So a lot of people are seeking a spiritual practice that will bring them death, even though what they want is they want freedom, they want happiness, they want bliss. But our ancestors understood that the universe was a dynamic place and that what we sought was to create a dynamic balance that was always changing. Dynamic in the sense that, you never fix it and then walk away. You hold up one plate and then another one falls down. You got to pick up that one, and then you got to pick up this one. And it means you want to create a dynamic balance in the world. And so our ancestors, we call them shamans, believed that we interacted with all different kinds of spiritual beings, that for them there wasn't just this duality of physical and non-physical, that our world was one of many. And the thought of physical and non-physical didn't enter their mind. In fact, many native people still to this day, if they live in their traditional way of living, they'll have a dream, and in the dream, they chop down a tree. They'll wake up from that dream and then they'll grab somebody and they'll point at a tree in this reality and they'll say, I chopped that tree down last night. Now, if somebody were to grab us and point at a tree that is obviously there and say, I chopped that tree down last night, we would be thinking, what is wrong with this person? But for somebody that lives in a dynamic universe where there are multiple dimensions, they would know what that meant. That this is something that really happened, that very tree had been chopped down, but they would also understand that it happened on another reality plane that actually exists. And so we live with spiritual beings that are around us all the time. And perhaps somebody who follows an ancient path might say that we moderners are just desensitized to the beings that are around us all the time from other dimensions. And that these dimensions interact and interweave. And what we really want to achieve is a dynamic balance. We can communicate with them and that we ourselves, we human beings, are multi-dimensional beings as well. And so when we're conscious and we're walking around in a conscious state, that's only one of many of our own individual realities that we have within ourselves. So that's what really people are trying to accomplish with shamanic journeying, with using power plants, by practicing this stuff that I teach here. That will take you into a whole different realm of reality, especially this stuff if you put a lot of time into it. But this was just normal for our ancestors. So what I want to talk about today is I want to talk to you about my understanding of many different kinds of spirit beings. So we're going to talk about the gods. There are at least two types of gods. We're going to talk about spirits. And that could be generally anything that we perceive as non-physical, whether they be earth spirits or even spirits from other dimensions, which we might even call alien. Let's talk about what aliens really are, if they exist. Talk about the ancestor spirits, the ascended masters, demons, ghosts. I'm going to see how far I get. I'm going to look into all of these things. Before I go any further, please be sure to subscribe to this channel. Hit the like button, the thumbs up button, and hit the bell button so you can be notified whenever I upload a video or when I'm doing a live stream. And also make sure that you check out the links here. These are here for a reason. I'm not just here to make it so that I have to squish myself into one corner of the frame. These are tools that are here for you to use. If you're just coming onto my channel and the only thing you're doing is listening to me talk, you're only getting about 1% of what this channel has to offer. This YouTube channel is an archive. It is a library. Learn how to search within the channel. Learn how to look at the playlists. And I've been doing this for over 10 years, and there's so much stuff for you. So please spend the time to make use of this free resource. And then, of course, if you want the really fancy stuff, you can click on the links here to go even further. All right, so let's start with gods. What are gods? Now this is, let me be clear about something. You have been misinformed for the past couple thousand years. What you believe to be religion is actually misinformation. And it's been going on for a couple of thousand years. And in this misinformation, you've been told that there's only one God. But before, I think it was 358 BC. Before 358 BC, there was no such thing as a monotheist religion. There was a couple that came and went, but they really weren't what we consider to be monotheist religions. This was a brand new idea that was brought into the world in the Middle East by the Jewish people. They were polytheists up until 358 BC. And I've talked about that, and I won't get into it, but they brought this new kind of religion which took scripture as literal, not mythological or symbolic. And they said that there was only one God in the universe, and it just kind of reduced everything to one God and angels, and that's it. And then the Christian religion introduced demons, but that's pretty much all there was. But there's actually two types of gods, plural. And so it's good to understand what those are. So in many traditions, the gods create the universe. But that's not, you have to understand that anything that's written about the gods is something that can be interpreted in multiple ways. Because we don't live in a two-dimensional screen, which is monotheism, the religion that had tried to take over the world and was fairly successful. It wants to reduce the world into this screen where everything is, just two-dimensional. But the gods are multidimensional. We actually don't live on this flat plane. By the way, that's why people want to believe in the flat earth. Those of you who are flat earthers, I'm sorry to say that came about with monotheism. It was Abrahamic monotheism that came up with the idea of a flat earth. Our ancestors before that time actually didn't believe that. They believed in a sphere. And that is because reality is not a two-dimensional projection on a screen. Reality is a hologram. We live in a holographic universe, which means that things can be more than one thing at the same time. So I've said this numerous times, but it's a great example. If you go to your average Hindu today, which is a modern person who is in fact, it's the only surviving Indo-European religion in the world that has been continuously worshipped and has evolved from the get-go. It hasn't changed. Those of us in the West, whether you're a neo-heathen or a neo-pagan, or even if you converted to some other polytheist religion or shamanism, you were programmed to see the world as a two-dimensional screen. So that's why, if you are, there are neo-pagans and neo-heathens who get kind of bent out of shape because they want you to make a decision. The gods physically exist somewhere. Or no, they're just archetypes. But it's neither, and both at the same time. If you talk to your average Hindu and you ask them, is Ganesha just an archetype? He'll say, yes, Ganesha is just an archetype. He obviously doesn't physically exist. Is Ganesha a real person that physically exists somewhere? Yes, he is a physical person. There is a rotund boy with an elephant head on his body, and he actually exists in a specific place, and he is a real person that you can talk to. And is he just a symbol? Yes, he's just a symbol. And is he more than something physical? Oh yes, he's beyond physical. You can't pin them down, because everything is true and nothing is true all at the same time, because they still hold on to their traditional understanding that we live in a hologram. We don't live in a two-dimensional screen. So the gods are multidimensional. And so the gods can be seen in many different ways. We won't get into all those ways, but there are at least two kinds of gods. Generally speaking, there are celestial gods, and there are, for lack of a better word, terrestrial gods. The terrestrial gods really aren't terrestrial, meaning that they're, limited to the physical earth. But the celestial deities have a strong association with the stars. And as you know, stars are incredibly bright. Like, you can't look at a star for very long or you'll go blind. They're too bright. And you also can't be in the direct light of a star unless you have some kind of protection. We live on planet Earth that has an atmosphere. And we also have an ionosphere, and we also have a magnetosphere. So we have all of this stuff surrounding us that actually filters out and protects us from the incredibly powerful radiation of the sun. If we were to get the full force of the radiation of the sun, it would destroy us. The gods are the same way, the celestial gods. You cannot experience them completely, especially in your physical form. It would you'd burn up in a second. And so the gods, the celestial gods, are associated with perfection, timeless purity and perfection. They represent that which inspires us. The word inspires means to inspirit. So they literally put spirit within us. They inspire us. They give us pride, and they give us bravery, and they motivate us to bold, heroic action. But they also have a negative side for us, which is that if you get too wrapped up in the celestial gods without having that filter of spiritual worship, of spiritual ritual, if you don't have ritual acting as your barrier, like we have on the planet, we have an atmosphere. If you don't do spiritual worship and you just try and see the gods as they are, then you end up becoming very dogmatic, and you can become a cult leader or a cult member, or you can become a terrorist. Terrorists love Allah so much. They are so focused on the purity that they're willing to destroy themselves and anybody else that doesn't live up to their dogmatic black and white understanding. Because we are limited. We don't have the ability in our intellect to understand. We can't see. The gods are just these bright dots in the sky. We don't see that they're actual bright burning spheres of light. So that's the one type of God, which is the celestial God, the gods of purity that live in timeless perfection. And then there are the second type, main type of God, which I'm calling the terrestrial God. But they're not terrestrial in the sense that they're bound to the earth, but they live in and function within time and space. And they function within manifesting and altering physical time, physical space. And this is what we would call magic. And so there are gods that are focused on magic, and the celestial gods want to do that. They want to strip you of all of your limitation and make you one with their bright, pure, light. Nothing goes faster than the speed of light. They want you at that level. The terrestrial gods want you to live in manifested reality. They want to help you. They want to give you children. They want to give you money and clothes and prosperity. They want to give you beauty. They want to give you pleasure. They want you to experience this physical reality, and they want to give you the magic and the spirituality that exists within the vibration of three-dimensional physical life. So those are the two types of gods. There's in true traditional understanding, especially in the Indo-European tradition, there is a celestial type of God, and then there is the more terrestrial type of God. And in the Norse tradition, as I'm sure you've heard me say, the Vanir, which are seen as the terrestrial gods, which are not equal, but similar to the Asuras in the Hindu tradition. The Vanir are called the elder gods. And it's not because they've been around longer. It's not because they're the first. It's not because they're older than the Aesir, because they're not. It's not about linear time. It means that they experience and have experienced the flow of time, the manifestation of reality. So they have experience, which gives them, they have more time. They're, quote, older. And the celestial gods, they live in this constant state of timeless perfection, which is the purity of the light that comes from the stars. And so they think like children. They do have more black and white thinking. They have more extreme thinking. And they're living in the immediate now. There is no past, no future. There is only the immediate now for the celestial gods, just like the sun. It's constant. It never stops. The sun doesn't stop shining. The sun is shining all the time. And so the celestial gods are constantly being reborn in the moment like children. Whereas the Vanir, they live in this time. They have knowledge, they have awareness, they remember the past, they bring knowledge of the past, they have more acceptance and tolerance of human beings and their limitations, whereas the celestial gods don't nearly have the tolerance for it. But the terrestrial gods, they like humanity. They like humanity's frailty, their desires, their limitations, and they want to give and empower us in that. The celestial gods don't like that because they don't like feeling impure. So they, quote, go to war. So that's why you have wars between the gods. It's because they're functioning on different levels. And that is also that it's not that they really actually hate each other and are trying to destroy each other, because when you look in the mythology, you'll see that these two different types of gods always come to some kind of agreement. They make deals with each other. They intermarry. And in the case of Thor, Thunar, the lightning god, he is half celestial god and half giant. So you don't have just necessarily one type of entity. Something else I wanted to say about that, but I forgot. So those are the two types of gods, generally speaking. Now we have spirits. Spirit is just a general word. It could mean anything. You could be talking about your spirit. You could be talking about the spirit of a god. You could be talking about the spirit, meaning a ghost, a demon, an evil spirit, a good spirit. But the word spirit actually means breath. And, when somebody dies, the word is to expire. It's a Latin word. Ex means out, and spirare means to breathe. So expirare means to spirit out or to breath out. The breath is gone. It has left the body. It is the spirit. So spirit actually means breath. Any kind of thing that lives has spirit in it. We breathe, and that is one of the most powerful ways to give yourself power, is by doing deep breathing exercises. You bring more spirit. We're talking about life force energy spirit, just spirit in general, into your body. But they're all different kinds of spirits, so let's talk about some of them. Earth spirits. So we don't hear a lot about earth spirits, but earth spirits were extremely important to our indigenous polytheist shamanic ancestors. They did a lot of rituals to attract earth spirits, to empower earth spirits. I can give you a personal experience myself. I grew up in Southern California. I went to college in Southern California. That was really where I spent. I didn't leave California, I think, for 30 or 40 years. I think I stayed in California, most of my early adulthood, all of my childhood. And so when I would want to go up into the wilderness, I would go up to the mountains. I would specifically go up to the southern Sierra Nevada mountains. If anybody wants to, you should check those places out now, because unfortunately climate change is destroying the forests. I don't know how much longer those beautiful forests are going to last. But thankfully I was able to spend time up there before the forest started dying. I would have to go up to about, I liked being at 8,000 feet or higher. And I thought at that time, when I was, 20, 25 years old, I thought that, when I would backpack up to one of these, 10,000, 12,000 foot peaks and I'd camp, I thought that it was the lack of oxygen that made me feel loopy. And I liked it. I liked that feeling. There was this feeling of energy, and at the same time I was sort of kind of in a trance-like state, and it was really wonderful and peaceful. And I thought, there's a lot of clean air up here. There's not as much oxygen, so it's making me a little loopy. And then at when was that? I think it Had to have been in, I can't remember exactly when. Later on, I was traveling across the country. I was driving across the country, I think to make a film. And I passed through the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. Now, I had never been there, and I assumed that those mountains and the Sierra Nevadas were the same. They looked the same. They're tall, they have trees. I thought it was pretty much the same. And on my way, I had planned out on the map, because back then you had to look at a map. And I was looking at a map, and I found this hiking trail that was, I think, at 8,000 or 9,000 feet or 10,000 feet. And I thought, oh, that sounds great. I want to walk in those woods, and I want to get that kind of loopy feeling that I get when I go to the Sierras. And sure enough, I hiked and I hiked and I hiked, and I never got that feeling. In fact, I felt like it was dead, like something wasn't right. I looked around, it was beautiful, trees and birds, and, what the heck's going on? Why am I not feeling anything? I don't feel any of the same energy that I normally feel whenever I go up to the Sierra Nevadas. I didn't think anything of it. And I got back in my car after my hike, and I drove down the mountain. And as I got down to the bottom of the mountain, I realized that around the corner was Vail, Colorado. Anyway, one of those trendy, skiing towns in the mountains. And I went, oh, because it just, as I drove into, and I could feel as I passed into the city limits that it just became very superficial. It was all about money, and I was like, oh, well, no wonder. Any spirits that were there would have been driven away by that negative low vibration as well. So no wonder I didn't feel anything. And it was then that I realized that, among other things, what I was sensing in that real wilderness, in those really powerful mountains, were the earth spirits. And what I would do is I would stay up in those mountains by myself. I would backpack into the Sierra Nevadas. Because it's the only way you could get there into the national parks is you either went on horseback or you hoofed it with, everything on your back. So I would do one of those things, and I would get deep into the mountains, miles and miles up over 14,000 foot passes and down into, these wilderness valleys. And I would spend 2 weeks there by myself. And by the end of those 2 weeks, all kinds of crazy, weird things would happen. And all kinds of beings would introduce themselves to me, either in my sleep or as I was meditating, all kinds of crazy stuff. And I literally would have to decompress. When I would come out of those mountains, it would take me a week to come back into my body, because I would have been in a whole other place. So I can tell you from personal experience that there are these things called earth spirits. And I can't tell you how many different kinds there are. There is a lot. And some of them are friendly to humans, and some of them aren't. And some are on such a completely different vibration that being around them is actually traumatizing to our human brain. They're not part of our reality. There's a whole other reality that they're a part of, and they don't think about us, they don't care about us. We're strange to them also. And it's like when people talk about aliens, people who claim to have experienced with otherworldly beings that we call aliens. They say it's a very traumatic experience because it just messes with your reality. Your understanding of reality, just by being in their presence, gets completely, totally discombobulated. During that time, I had decided that I wanted to have an experience with a Bigfoot, a Sasquatch. And I have a video on my channel. If you want to go and hear me tell you exactly what happened, you can go and look for that on my channel. But I meditated because I had been reading about people's experiences. I was reading up on native understanding of what Sasquatches were. And what the natives believe is that Sasquatch is not an animal like we would think they are, but that they're actually protector earth spirits. and that they are shamans, they're shapeshifters, and that they're sort of in and out of our dimension. They're not part of our dimension completely. They can appear and disappear and do all kinds of strange things, and they're here to protect the wilderness. So they're protector spirits, according to natives anyway. And so I was meditating, and I set out the meditation that I wanted to meet one. I wanted to interact with one. And I went up to the Sierras, which are known to have a lot of Sasquatch experiences in the backcountry there. And I was deep into the backcountry. And I remember, I think it was the first or the second night that I was at my campsite way back in the middle of nowhere. And twilight is a strange time in the middle of the forest up in the mountains. It's just a strange period. It really does feel like you're in between worlds. And it was twilight. And as I was sitting there cooking my chili over my little cooking stove, I heard, if I could describe it, I heard a quote scream, but it was a sound that penetrated beyond this reality. I heard something scream so loud that it went through my whole body. And my body responded as though this is not part of our reality. Now, just to let you know, I've tried to tell other people, I've tried to tell other people who people who live up in the mountains, and people who take people into the backcountry, and I tried to explain to them what I experienced, and they said, "Oh, was it?" And they named off all the animals, and I said, "No, I've heard those. It was nothing like that. It was, if you hadn't heard it, I guarantee you don't know what I'm talking about." But the scream had multiple pitches to it as well, and it had, on the high end, it sounded like a woman screaming in terror. At the middle level, it sounded like a man screaming in anger. And on the lower level, it sounded like, Tyrannosaurus Rex. And then on top of that, it was louder than anything I'd ever heard out of a living being in my life. And on top of that, it made me feel like it was shifting me out of my body and out of reality. It was horrifically frightening, not just because it was a loud sound, but because it was unearthly. It was not from my reality. And I knew that if I interacted with that being, it would completely demolish my understanding of reality. And the scream lasted for about 3 seconds. Now, 3 seconds doesn't sound like a long time, except that when you think you're dying, 3 seconds is an eternity. And so, first scream came out. Again, it's at twilight, and it's just beyond my vision. Wherever it is, it's just out of my sight, behind a tree or a rock or something. And as soon as the scream ended, my brain did the weirdest thing. It tried to erase it. Because during the 3 seconds that scream is going on, I'm going through the list of all the different animals that it could be. And I'm going, nope, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that, it's not that. I've never heard anything like this before. The scream stops. And then my brain said, that didn't just happen. And I almost forgot. I guess they call that dissociate. I started to dissociate and forget that it just happened. And then just before I was about to just convince myself that I didn't hear what I just heard, the second scream came in. Same thing happened. My brain went through all the list of all the animals it could be, and wasn't anything. And the feeling that what I was experiencing was not part of this world. My being started coming apart at the seams. Reality started splitting, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And then the scream stopped, and once again my brain came in and said, that didn't just happen. And I started to literally forget. I started to dissociate. And then the third time, the scream comes in, again lasts for 3 seconds, and my brain broke. It just went, And the scream finished, and I knew that whatever it was just on the other side of my vision, and that it was up to me what was going to happen next. That this being was responding to all of the meditations and the requests that I had said, I want to interact with you. And I got to tell you, I wimped out. I sent out the message. I said, thank you for coming. Whatever you are, I won't survive the encounter. I wish you the best, but please, please don't come into my camp. Please leave me alone. I won't survive it. I have to tell you, I'm not proud of that. That's not something, I don't consider myself, that kind of a person. But that's what that being was all about. That being, if that being had come into my camp, I can't tell you what would have happened to me. Of course, part of me wants to go, gosh, what would have happened? But, it was horrifically, traumatically frightening to me. And then things calmed down. I didn't hear anything. And then the dissociation kicked in and I forgot. And I went back and I was cooking my dinner and I went to sleep. And I got up the next day and the birds were singing and the sun was shining and the river was babbling and it was all beautiful. And then it all came flooding back and I went, because finally in the safety of the sunlight, I could re-experience it in its fullness. And it was very frightening. A bunch of other things happened to me on that trip, which I won't get into, but that was an earth spirit. There's also an understanding from the shamanic understanding of what earth spirits are, and this is going to blow your mind. So, in Mongolia and in Siberia, which is where we get the word shaman from, you'll see they create these, they put rocks and they create these little rock pillars. And you're supposed to go by and give an offering to these things. And those rock pillars are for earth spirits to live in. They're their homes. And they're made by, piling rocks on top of each other. But they're more than that. What you don't understand is that living in your navel center, you have, by the way, you're not one spirit. You're made up of 3 different spirits at least. And that's not taking into account the spirits that live in your organs that keep you alive. You're filled with different kinds of spirit beings within you. But there are 3 main ones. The one that lives here, one that lives here, and one that lives in your navel. When you die, your spirit, your true spirit, your soul, leaves your body and goes to another dimension. It doesn't stay here on this earth. It may stay for 30 or 40 days just so that it can say goodbye to its loved ones, to disconnect, but it doesn't stay longer than that. So anything that you think is a ghost, guess what? It's not a person. Not the way you think it is. It's not a soul. But in your navel center, your lower self, you have your psyche. You have your unconscious and your subconscious mind, which contains all of your identity. Because remember, when your spirit is not you. My name is Michael William Denny, and I have this website, and I do this, and I'm X amount of years old, and I blah, blah, blah. That's not my soul isn't any of those things. That is my avatar that my soul is living in, and it's playing this role. It's looking out through my eyeballs, pretending to be this guy who calls himself Michael William Denny, blah, 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 blah. But it's none of those things. However, I have in my lower self, I have this thing called the psyche, which is my personality. It has all of the things that I've been programmed with from past lives, from this life, all of my likes, my fears, my, all of that, my imperfections, my strengths, and it's all nonsense. It means nothing. It's completely made up. It's a fantasy. It is a fiction. that is created so that my soul will have some three-dimensional reality to anchor it in. Because if my soul were to be completely, totally connected with its infinite self, it would just disconnect from the body altogether. There would be nothing holding it down. Your Kundalini, which is your psyche, actually, the highest form of your psyche, holds your spirit in your body. So when somebody dies, their psyche is squished out onto this plane, this earth plane. Now, if they've lived a very spiritual life and their lower self has served their soul, and that they themselves were not attached to their psyche, to their personality, then what will happen is that spirit, that lower self, will get squished out onto the physical dimension, and it will slowly start to forget who it thought it was. My name is so-and-so, I did this. And it will go back into the earth from where it came. And then when it completely releases its connection to that incarnated life, it will then become an earth spirit. And these earth spirits are given homes. The shamans in Siberia and Mongolia create these little houses for them. So when somebody dies, you want to go build a little house for their lower self to go and live in, so it can make the transition and become an earth spirit again. So that's another kind of earth spirit. And that, unfortunately, is what ghosts are. Ghosts are those spirits that haven't been given an earth home. They still think, because when you see a ghost, as you know, ghosts have, quote, unfinished business, right? Ghosts are always, looking for the treasure, or they're getting revenge, or, they're playing like a loop. You see them, jumping off the same cliff every night. The woman who killed herself because her husband left her at the altar, and she jumps off the cliff. And every night you see her, or they're in the haunted house, and they're always moaning. They're not like happy and, really full. They're always upset about something. That's because this is an individual who, died a death where they were not connected to their soul for whatever reason. They missed the boat. They were wrapped up in their selfishness, their narcissism. They were evil. They were destructive, or they like the ghost that's looking for the gold. Obviously, what is a ghost going to do with gold? It's not a ghost. Also, when you see psychics try and talk to the ghosts, they try and tell the ghosts what year it is, and the ghosts get very upset. No, it's 1840. Don't tell me it's 2020. They get very upset when you tell them to go to the light. They get very angry when you tell them to do these things. Because they're not human spirits. They're the psyche. That's why they don't know what time it is. They don't know from, the thing about your unconscious mind, by the way, if you have unresolved psychological issues from childhood, let's say you have a resentment. You have resentment against your father because he didn't, let's say if I were resentful at my dad promised me he was going to take me to the Virgin Islands when I was 15 and we were going to go surfing, and he never did. And I was very upset with him for years about that. So if I were still hanging on to that, I would be trapped in my 15-year-old self, in my lower self, because those feelings there's no such thing as time. This is why there are people they act like little infants. They act like toddlers, because emotionally they are. They are trapped in that time, even though if they've been doing it for 30, 40 years. The unconscious mind doesn't understand time, doesn't understand age. So this is what happens with ghosts. They die on the year is 1840, and they're looking for the gold. They think it's 1840, and it doesn't matter how many years they spend on this planet, they'll still think it's 1840. But if you ever notice that there are no ghosts that are really more than 100 years old, 100 years, 200 years, do you ever see like the ghost of, Caesar? You don't. The ghosts are relatively recently deceased. That's because even those lower self spirits, they come out. If they're wrapped up because the individual couldn't let go of their physical life or was immature for some reason, they're spiritual, they weren't very spiritual people. After 100, 200 years, those ghosts, they let go of that and they go back into the earth again. And they're not spirits. So there could be the ghost you could name a ghost of somebody still, haunting some place, and you could be the reincarnated person of that. So your ghost from 100 years ago could still be roaming around haunting some house, and you've moved on because your spirit isn't connected to that. So this is why it's so important to have all three of yourselves connected and aligned. Why I work so hard on teaching you how to do that. And all of the things that I do that some people don't understand, like why do I tell you to ask only questions? Why do I constantly tell you to focus on your feelings? And why I tell you what is a real feeling and what is a real question? Besides me being a controlling pain in the ass, it is because I want you to learn practical ways to keep these three selves aligned with each other. Because you owe it to your lower self, that lower self within you. If you practice a spiritual life, you will allow that to go and be another lower self to somebody else, or it can evolve and become a soul. So you have a responsibility to live a spiritual life. You have a responsibility to be mature and evolve, so that all three of the beings that live in what is you will be able to go on to a better existence. Your higher self isn't human. It was, but it's not anymore. Your higher self is down here to help you. It was a human, but now it has its karma. It has to work out. It's connected into the spirit realm and connected to you and gives you higher awareness, but it needs to move on as well. It wants to move on and become an ascended master. Your soul wants to evolve and move to the next level as well. So if everybody's working in conjunction, they get to go their own way, they get to evolve and let go of each life and move on to the next one. So you owe it to not just your own soul, but to all the other spirits, your 5 organs. They have spirits as well. And you owe it to your heart, your liver, your kidneys, your spleen, your lungs. You owe it to all of the spirits in your body to work through your emotions and keep that dynamic balance of your emotions going, which is what we do in the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. We do a lot of practice on balancing the emotions and working with the spirits of the 5 organs. So you have a responsibility to this community. And Qigong is really important. Yoga is really important. Working with the lightning power is especially important to the heart center and to the soul. So you have a lot of responsibility. You've been given a gift. Those of you who think that being a human being is somehow a punishment, is you're not respecting at all the tremendous privilege you've been given and the tremendous responsibility you have over all this community of beings that live within you. So it's time to take full responsibility. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. I'm sorry if you are sad. You can have all of your sad and angry feelings, but indulging in self-pity is not something we have time to do. We have to work through our issues and let everybody heal and move on. And these practices are here for that very reason. All right, aliens. I can't say if I've ever met an alien before. If I did, I dissociated and don't remember. I do remember way back when I was, this could be, I could have just dreamt it because I was imagining it, but I remember I was reading a lot of stuff by Whitley Strieber. If you know who he is. He's not as popular as he is now, but he had some really interesting ideas based on his belief of his experience of being abducted and experiencing aliens. And he came up with something that I find extremely interesting, which may have everything to do with what's happening right now. He said that aliens, or at least the specific aliens that he worked with, which I guess are the Greys, he said that aliens were humans from the future. That they weren't traveling across space, they were traveling back in time. And that there was an event that happened on Earth where human biology started to split. And so there are two alien, if I'm remembering it right, there are two alien races that actually came from humans. And they're out of balance. And so what they're doing is coming back when they're taking human beings and taking tissue samples and all the stuff that they're doing. They're trying to fix something that happened. And it makes me wonder if there's perhaps some kind of experimental medical procedure that got into the DNA of people. Maybe, I don't know. But I really like that idea that aliens are humans from the extreme future. Anyway, I don't know that for a fact. I had an experience once after reading that where I was doing the Mao Shan. I was doing this, which, by the way, it doesn't feel like anything else I've ever done. Especially when you get into the higher level stuff. I used to call it Vulcan Kung Fu because it felt so alien. But I was deep into that and I was doing that. And I remember one night, the way I remembered it is that I woke up and I was looking, looking from my bed to my door. And I could have swore I saw one of those Greys stick his head out from behind the door. And the feeling was that he was curious because I'd been doing this stuff. And it had vibrated to such a level that he took notice of it. I wasn't on his roster. I wasn't somebody that he had on his list to come and, abduct and get material from, but that I was kind of like breaking out of the normal, that I wasn't supposed to be, that I wasn't part of that. And that this stuff was so strange that even he had to come and see, what is going on? What is that guy doing? I have no idea if it's true or not. Could have been a dream, but it felt pretty real. Now let's talk about what shamanism is really focused on, which is ancestors. So by ancestors, I'm talking about your ancestors. Your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your great-great-great-grandparents. These are the beings that are most associated with human beings as you go farther back in time. Or, there's a really interesting story, I won't get into it, but let me just say that if it weren't for Christian missionaries, China would not be communist. And that's because Christian missionaries came into China and shamed people out of worshiping their ancestors. The result of shaming people out of worshiping their ancestors in order to fit into modern society created a society that became atheist. Because to them, their ancestors, they did all kinds of things. That if a breeze came in, it was one of your ancestors coming in, and you would set a place for them and put tea down for them and all that. And the Christian, no, that's superstition. We don't do that. You want to be part of the modern world, you got to get rid of that superstition. And that's why China is communist, because it's an atheist religion. To believe in spirituality, to believe in the ancestors, is to go against the Chinese Communist government. So we owe it to the, if you want to complain about the, Chinese Communist government trying to take over the world, we have Christian missionaries to thank for that, because it changed the psyche of the Chinese people to such a degree where they just threw away they didn't just change their spirituality and all become Christians. They just threw it all away. Oh, it's all superstition? Well, let's just chuck the whole thing. So worshiping your ancestors is very important. And I remember reading about, I forget his name. What was his name? I can't remember his name. But he was an Anglo-Saxon pagan warrior. And the Christians were trying to convert him. And they were telling him how powerful God was and how powerful Jesus was. And he was interested in this. Oh, so if I convert to your religion, then I can have the power of your God. He wanted that. That was appealing to him. You know, I'll be a great warrior. Yes, you can fight for Jesus and you can just, oh, I like that idea. I'll get glory from fight. Oh, good. And then he says, but wait a second. My ancestors didn't convert to Christianity. So are they in heaven with Jesus? And the Catholic priest says, no. He says, well, forget that. If I can't be with those noble, powerful men, I want nothing to do with your religion. This was you strove in this life, before all of this monotheist, Abrahamic monotheist, dualist nonsense came over the world. You strove to live up to the bravery of your ancestors. You heard stories about them. Your father would tell stories of his father and his grandfather and your uncle that may have passed away in battle. They would tell stories of these brave men who were willing to die in order to achieve something. You know, one of the sad things that I think the United States is missing, you know, let me be clear. The United States has always had its imperfections, but I don't know if you know the story of the Star-Spangled Banner. You know, does that banner yet wave? Is that flag still flying? Is what that means. I don't know if you know the story about that. But the story behind that was that Francis Scott Key, the guy who wrote Star-Spangled Banner, he was a lawyer and he was setting up an exchange of prisoners with the British. So he went on to the British, flagship that was out, I don't know what city where they were, but out in the bay, wherever, and was negotiating this exchange of prisoners. And the British commander said, yes, we'll go ahead and do that. But he says, you know what? By tomorrow, this is going to be meaningless because we're gonna end up defeating you. And he says, what do you mean? How are you going to do that? He says, you see that fort over there? And you see that flag? We are going to bomb that all night until that flag is down. And we have sent them a message that if you want us to stop bombing you, take the flag down. But if the flag is up, it means that you refuse to surrender, and we will keep bombing you until you do. And so all night he was on this ship, this British ship, watching this. And they took all of their navy, hundreds of ships, and they trained their cannons on that flag. And that flag in that fort was not just soldiers, but it was men and women and children. And he said, you realize there's civilians there. He says, we don't care. You guys don't want that to die? Then take your flag down and surrender. And so all night they bombed. They bombed that flag. And there was so much smoke that they were constantly looking to see. And the prisoners underneath on the bottom part of the ship were yelling up to Francis Scott Key, where's the flag? Is the flag still flying? Because they knew what it meant. If the flag wasn't flying, it meant that either they had been defeated or they had surrendered. And at the end of the night, by the time that the sun rose again, the flag wasn't straight up, but it was still there, and it was in tatters, but it was still flying. And what I wasn't taught this, but what we haven't been taught is that men, and I say that with all respect, these men were going out when the flag would get bombed and it would snap in half and fall over. A man would go out there and pick it up and hold it, knowing he was the next one to get bombed. That a cannonball was going to hit him directly and kill him. And throughout the night, somebody else would go and pull that guy's tattered body, put the flag up again and hold it. So who knows how many men gave their lives for this. And this is why this is the Star-Spangled Banner. Why has the United States been, up until now, why has the United States been a world power? Not because it's perfect. Slavery, all kinds of other horrible things that we've done, nation building, conquering other people, destruction of indigenous races, all that kind of stuff. Those are things the United States isn't very proud of. But there has been an ancestor worship of the United States. Every time you go on 4th of July and there's fireworks, the fireworks are about those cannonballs exploding and the flag still flying because men were willing to have their life taken, blown to pieces so that the country wouldn't surrender. And so there has been this worship of the ancestors, which is dying for very real reasons. I'm one of them. I don't get teary-eyed when I hear the Star-Spangled Banner. My heart doesn't go aflutter when I think of the 4th of July because my government isn't working for me anymore. There is no freedom anymore, to my knowledge. And so what does that tell you? If we don't worship the ancestors, the power of the ancestors won't be there for us. So this worship of the ancestors, your immediate ancestors, is incredibly important for your psychological well-being, for your spiritual power. I can tell you from personal experience, knowing people that I've been close to who have passed away, they are still here. They may be on another plane, but they give power, they give direction. You can pray directly to them and they will work with you. They will empower you. They will guide you. Worship of the ancestors is extremely important, and it's one of the things that's getting lost in modern times, starting with Abrahamic monotheism. So, ascended masters is another level of spirit beings, and those are not the ancestors that I just mentioned. Your immediate ancestors going back, however many generations. These are human beings that have lived all of their lives and they no longer reincarnate. You can call them elves, you can call them bodhisattvas, you can call them angels if you dare. But they live in a realm, if you face the northwest, which is the realm of the elves, you can communicate with them. They live in a realm where they're on the edge between being able to see what goes on in our world or passing into the next, which we don't understand. And before they give up their awareness of this limited dimension and help us, before they give that up, they stand and watch over us from the northwest and they give us their knowledge if we ask. And then when either they no longer feel the need to do it, or I don't know maybe they've run out of the karma, or who knows what it is, but then they will completely walk away from what we believe to be reality, and they will go into what we consider to be emptiness, nothingness. Actually, I don't know what it is, but it's beyond our understanding. And these are the ascended masters, who are also our very, very distant ancestors. And then you have demons. Demons do exist. The question is, what creates demons? I have a theory based on my years of experience doing exorcisms. I have a theory on what demons are. Demons are not what you've been told by, again, Abrahamic monotheism. These are not angels that fell. That's impossible. An ascended master would never fall. That doesn't happen. We don't live in that universe where it's so tenuous that some being that's so powerful and so evolved can fall, and become this cursed being. That's just not possible. I don't believe that demons exist if it weren't for humans. Remember I said that when you die, if you're not connected, if your three selves are not connected, you can squish out a ghost. And ghosts are always destructive. There's no such thing as even friendly ghosts. My ancestors, my landlords when I was in Australia, they were telling me about their niece that, felt the touch of her grandmother. Like her grandmother came in and would touch her face, and it would wake her up, and it would scare her and bother her. And then she wasn't scared anymore because it was her grandmother. But it's weird, to be touched by something that's not there. That's not normal. It's weird. It's frightening. It breaks boundaries. It's not. You don't do that. You don't scare little kids like that. So it means that when her grandmother actually passed away, she still was holding on to, what am I going to do without my little granddaughter? She still had an attachment. And that attachment went into her lower self, which got squished out onto this reality. And it's playing this thing over and over again. People run into that. There are ghosts that will do that. Ghosts that will, touch your cheek, or, put the covers on you or something like that, and they'll say it's a ghost, but it's a friendly ghost. It's like a grandparent. But that's not normal. That's not what's supposed to happen. It means that it's somebody's lower self that's still wrapped up in the attachment, because that person didn't let go, didn't let their children, their grandchildren, let them have their own life. Because your loved ones, just the spirits of your loved ones, don't interfere with us. They may give us guidance in different ways. They may give us gifts in different ways, but they don't come and pull on the back of your hair or do weird things like that. If that does happen, and it's not your own projection that you've put out there, it's somebody's lower self that's walking around thinking it's still playing its part. And there's always an attachment. There's a lower, that's why people say it's cold. They run into cold spots. That's not a good thing. That's the frightening thing. So demons, I believe, are emotions that have really gone, that have been projected out of people and have really gone and solidified into a being that has its own awareness. But I'll share something with you. First off, if you now I didn't know this until recently, but I'll share with you my story which backs this up. But when you look at Vedic mythology, even in Norse mythology, the trolls, the demons in these mythologies, their names are always a human emotion of some kind: greed, fear, self-deprecation, something like that. They always have these names. And one of the things that Christians get right, the born-again Christians who do the exorcisms, they will call the demons by that: demon of lust, demon of greed, demon of fear. That is absolutely right, because that's all it is. It's an emotion that is running around with its own awareness. And that's all it is. And emotions need to live in humans. Without humans, there's no such thing. The kind of emotions we create, those demons need that. So when you indulge in fear, in greed, in hatred, in jealousy, you create an energy within your body, and it starts to create a consciousness. And you could be squishing those things out. I'll share a story of a friend of mine. He told me about this, that he became really depressed and became really suicidal. And he was indulging it. He was, he had locked himself in his room and he'd closed all the curtains and he was in the corner and he was really indulging in his suicidal thoughts. And all of a sudden he felt something come in the room. And he knew it was bad. And he felt that he had attracted this thing, that he could feel the feeling in him, and this being was wanting to connect with that feeling. And that, in a sense, the being was asking for permission to come into him. And he said, "Nope, I'm fine. Everything's fine. I'm okay now." And it snapped him out of it, and he realized he was indulging in indulging in the negativity, which is different, by the way, than just having your feelings. Being sad, being even really, really sad and hurt, you can have that. That's not the same. But to indulge in it like that without looking towards, trying to resolve it and move past it and to heal and evolve, that attracts beings of the same vibration. And those beings are nothing more than emotions. And I can remember doing that same thing. I can remember when I was doing exorcisms and I would command the demon, "Tell me your name." And every time their name would be unforgiveness, fear, anger. It was always that. And that's what gave me power over them, when I knew what their name was. And also, there wasn't anybody that was ever possessed that I did an exorcism on who hadn't been physically, sexually, or emotionally or psychologically abused, and they had unforgiveness, understandably, towards someone that had harmed them. And what had happened is that their unwillingness to face the trauma of whatever was happening to them, their unwillingness to look at that, their desire to push that away and to live a victim mentality, opened up a portal, and these intense emotions that aligned with them possessed them. And they're very powerful and horrible. And so the only way that I could cast the demon out was if I could get them to, number one, name who had harmed them, and then to say that they forgave them. And you'd be surprised how many people are possessed and complaining about, "I'm possessed," but when I say you have to forgive Uncle so-and-so, they go, "No." And then the demon would come forth. But if they said, "Okay, I forgive Uncle so-and-so," then I could get rid of the demon. So demons aren't what we think they are. Demons are completely created by people. You attract them with your own indulgence in your unresolved psychological issues. And if you resolve your psychological issues, then the demons have nothing to be attracted to. They have nothing to hold on to. You never have to worry about ghosts or demons if you are empowered. This practice, the reason why it's so emotionally and psychologically challenging is because it forces you, the energy, the vibration of the energy, in order to reach that level of high vibrational energy, you have to resolve the issues and let go of them. And then you get the power. And that is why these guys were demon fighters. They're the only people I know of that could fight demons with their bare hands. They didn't have to do any rituals. They didn't have to do any exorcisms. They could just, "Oh, there's the demon," and they would just grab him and tear him apart. All right, so those are my understanding of all the different spiritual beings out there. This is a question and answer. I can see there's somebody who just couldn't stop talking. This is a question and answer. So the way this works is, if you have a question, you write the word question. I'm not interested in your opinions about any of this. If you have a question for me, you write the word question in all caps and then write your question. Make sure I understand the question and I'll do my best to answer it. Or you can share an honest feeling. A feeling is, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm happy. Those are the two things I want. I don't want anything else. And if you give me something else, I will If you're lucky, I will just simply bypass it or delete it. Or you run the risk of having me psychoanalyze you, and trust me, nobody wants that. So let's see here. Vincent.thunderwizard.com says hello. Vincent is one of my certified astrologers. He's also a shaman and a healer in his own right, and you can go to his website, which is vincent.thunderwizard.com. If you want me to promote your website, which of course will be a .thunderwizard.com website, if you want to be a certified Vedic astrologer or a rune reader, you can go to lockdown.thunderwizard.com, and if you pass the very simple test, I will certify you. I'll give you a website on my website, and when you show up to the live stream and say hello, I will promote you as well. But go check out Vincent. He's a very powerful shaman in his own right, and you can go check him out. My friend Black Earth Productions is saying hello. You can go and check out his YouTube channel, Black Earth Productions, and he's got a website, blackearthproductions.com, productions with a Z. Black Earth Productions says, question, what techniques do you encourage to master lucid vision quests? That's a great question. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. The most powerful technique I used is this stuff. That stuff, I wouldn't have to do anything. I would just practice this for an hour a day, and my dreams would, I can't even begin to tell you the crazy stuff that happened. There are other techniques. One, you see, here's the thing about shamanism that people don't understand. A lot of people, you guys do, Black Earth Productions, you do. But a lot of people don't understand that shamanism is about problem solving. It's a practical thing. The first shamans weren't trying to be spiritual, or they weren't trying to have a shamanic vision. They weren't, we equate spirituality with, being outside of our body, or, being outside of our feelings, or, being in Disneyland. We associate spirituality with all kinds of things it's not. For our ancestors, who lived, didn't have technology, who had to, hunt their food down or pull it out of the ground, and they had to build their own, these guys had basic life problems, and they need practical solutions for that. And shamanism became a way to do that, because the shamans were the people who could talk to the spirits to find out how to solve their physical problems. So anybody who wants to be a true shaman or a spiritual teacher or a wizard or a sorcerer or whatever, if you don't have some real practical, physical, or just real human need that needs to be solved, it's very likely you won't be successful, because the universe won't take you seriously. So the first technique, I'm getting around to your question, Black Earth Productions, is that you must be really committed to know exactly what it is you want to solve. What is the problem you want to solve? And, then you can go into a lucid dreaming state, and you'll find it. One of the most powerful lucid dreaming experience I had was I wanted to know. I had been receiving in meditation, I received the Hool breath. In case you're new to my channel, go check it out. Huul breath. It's the most basic practice of the Thunder Wizard path. I had been wondering where this came from, and it was bothering me. Like, who was giving me this information? I didn't know if it was Vedic masters. I didn't know if it was Taoist masters. It didn't dawn on me that it would be ancient European masters, which is, as it turned out to be, it was. So I had this question, and I'm doing all of my techniques, and I'm listening to drum music, and I'm trying to go into a shamanic state, and I really wanted to know, where is this information coming from? I need to know, because I need to be able to verify it. Practical solution, because I feel you want me to teach this to people, so I need to know where it came from. So I was very committed and very specific. And as I'm trying to go into a shamanic trance, it wasn't working. And I said, well, what the hell? let myself fall asleep. So I did. I let myself slip into a sleep, and the next thing I know, my eyes are wide open and I'm flying through the clouds. I'm like, oh, holy crap, how did I get here? And I'm flying through the clouds, and I come out of the clouds and I see this landmass with this ocean, and I'm trying to figure out, and I know that I'm being told where this is coming from, and I'm like, I'm going to memorize every aspect of this landscape so that I can go and research it when I wake up, because I knew I was dreaming. It was a completely lucid experience. And then as I'm looking at this green, emerald green landscape, I see all of a sudden the earth starts moving around, and it turns into this huge serpent, this huge green serpent that rises up, and it must have been hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of feet tall, and it opened up its mouth and swallowed me, and then I woke up, scared out of my mind. But the technique was that I had a very specific practical need that I had to figure out, and I was very driven and specific about it. That's why people who take hallucinogens, not knowing what they're doing and why they're doing it, they end up having these crazy, visions that they can't make heads or tails of. It's because the hallucinogen sort of squishes you out of your physical body in a very violent way, I might add. And if you don't have a specific, connection to something, you're just going to be floating around in your own unconscious craziness. That's why we don't take people seriously who get high and have these trips. We don't take them seriously because they're not serious about what they're doing. And the good news is you don't need any of that stuff. You just need a good motivation and a specific drive. So that's one of my techniques. Let's see. Black Earth Productions. Oh, it says hello again. Okay, hi. Agent of the Universe. Question. I used a pendulum on a piece of paper. I put yes or no on the paper and it swung on its own. Can spirits interact with physical objects like that? So, Agent of the Universe, I got nothing against that. I don't think it's the most advanced form of interaction. You run the risk of getting bad information, but the truth is that it wasn't moving on its own. Your unconscious was just moving it just slightly, and it ended up moving. Now that's an understood thing. Now that's how spirits can do this stuff, is they work with your unconscious mind. So your unconscious mind is in control of your brain, it's in control of your muscles, your nerves. And so, that's why when people are doing Ouija boards, the piece moves on its own. No, it's not. That's why you have 3 or 4 people have to touch it, because their unconscious minds merge. And if there is a spirit there, it can manipulate people's unconscious so that they'll all move together in one thing. Or, when you're doing a pendulum, it'll do that. But you don't have any guarantee that it's a spirit. You don't have any guarantee that it's your own unconscious. It's cotton candy. It tastes good, but there's no nutrients there. If you really are connected, maybe it can work. Same thing with doing rune readings for yourself. I do rune readings for myself all the time, and half the time it's right and half the time it's wrong. And that's because I'm influencing the reading because I have an agenda. When I give readings for other people, I don't have an agenda, so the spirits can guide my unconscious to, shuffle the cards in the way that, to bring the result that they want. So I wouldn't waste my time on it if I'm being honest with you. Adam Mohammed, question. What are the base properties of energy that distinctly classifies another type of being from another? Adam, welcome to the channel. I don't know if you're new to my channel or not. That's just way too intellectual for me. I don't care. I don't care. I know that if I eat protein, I'll build muscle. I can't go in and tell you what all the chemicals are of all the peptides. I don't know what any of that's. I just know that if I, drink protein powder and go to the gym, that I'll gain muscle. What are the basic properties that create it? I don't know, and I don't care. I know how to interact with them. I know what they do. I know who they are. That's just me. That's all I care about. So my apologies. I can't answer your question because I just honestly don't know. Agent of the Universe, honest feeling. I feel upset and unbearable emotional pain in this reality, and I sometimes want to slip out of this reality and go into the Gebo-verse, which is a short story I channeled and wrote. So that's an honest feeling. You didn't ask a question. I completely relate and understand that feeling, and I applaud you for your humility and your vulnerability to share that. My mouse isn't working, which means I need to plug it in. Flux Pavilion question, why are the jinn? Oh, who are the jinn? Flux Pavilion, how many times do I have to tell you? What are you asking me questions about stuff I don't teach? Go talk to a Muslim. I don't know what they are. Catherine Lopez question, I saw a Borg-looking black and white being in Waldo Canyon, Colorado. What do you think it was? No idea. It sounds frightening, though. Okay, there's some spam. I got to get rid of that. And then question, Mahadeva, did your practice of Qigongs help ground you at the time of your Sasquatch encounter? It didn't dawn on me to do Qigong because, as I said, I went into, I dissociated. But the power of the mountains, one of the things I didn't say is one of the differences between the mountains of California, which also Southern California, like just even Big Bear has this energy to it. But the mountains of California are made directly from granite. And granite has specific properties. It has crystals and all kinds of stuff in it. And it has a very high vibrational property. And I've come to find out that mountains made of granite, which come from underneath the earth, which are, millions of years, guts of volcanoes, those things are like a lightning rod. They really, they create a lot of energy and channel a lot of life force energy. So that's what was getting me high. It wasn't the altitude. It was the power of the mountains. And the higher you go, the more refined the energy gets. So just being up there was sort of like Qigong. Having said that, I did do Qigong and I did do my Maoshan practices. And that was I loved doing it there. I mean, the energy would be so intense. So it didn't dawn on me to do that. But after that first day of being flipped out by the Sasquatch, I just, I meditated and I was okay. And I didn't worry about it which was good because I was there for 2 weeks all by myself. So it would have been very frightening if I had. Raymond Avich, Demon Slayer question, can I come to the wild with another person? What? I don't know what you're asking me. I would like to experience that, but after what you described, I wouldn't dare go alone. Okay, so Raymond, is that really a question? Do you really need to ask me that? Do whatever the heck you want, my friend. That's not a question. That's not a question. Okay. So I think some new people here okay. Thanks. Somebody got rid of all their all their spam. I appreciate that. Raymond Avich, Demon Slayer. Okay, that's not a question. Raymond Avich, Demon Slayer. Question. I have already went and experimented on myself 2 times. I don't know what that means. I had to do something to be allowed to take my exams, and I didn't know. Okay. Raymond, seriously, my friend, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You just don't seem you seem like a kid, and you don't seem like somebody who really spends time paying attention. I don't know what you just said. I recommend you keep doing the whole breath. As I understand it, you're doing the whole breath. Keep doing that. Really think out your questions before you just spout all kinds of whatever. Do yourself. Have respect enough for yourself not to be so superficial and waste your own time. You got a spiritual teacher here that wants to answer a question for you. I don't really want to waste my time with stuff that you don't really care about. You don't really care about that question. That's why it bothers me. What else? I'm going to get rid of that spam. And then Daiji Dokodo. Question. Will you explain thunder magic and its practice or give a link to a vid if you already went on it? So let me address the last part of your question. I don't want to do your work for you, so I'm not going to go and search for a link on my own channel for you. But you can. I do have videos about all kinds of videos about thunder and thunder magic. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. My channel is an archive. It's a library. You can go and look on the playlists and you'll see thunder this, thunder that. If you know how to do it, if you don't, let me tell you how. How to search anybody's YouTube channel for anything you want. If you know how to go to their own YouTube site, you just type in their YouTube name at the top. For me, you type in Thunder Wizard, and up would come my channel. You go onto my channel page. If you're on a laptop or a desktop, you scroll to the magnifying glass. You click on the magnifying glass, and a new search bar will come up, and you can put whatever search term you want. You'll find all of the videos that I've made for you. You don't need to have me do the work to give you a link. I'm not going to do the work for you. The reason why is because if you want to be a spiritual practitioner, I want you guys to do what I had to do. Nobody handed me anything. I had to study sometimes, and I do it now. I know how to go on other people's channel. If I want to find out if they talk about something I want to talk about, I will go and do the work and search terms or look through their playlists. So I sincerely invite you to do the same on my channel, because there's got to be tens of hours of me talking about thunder and thunder magic, and I encourage you to go look for it. And if you want the quicker version, you can go up to Warrior 90-Day Challenge at thunderwizard.com and subscribe, and I've got it all lined out for you. You can start at the bottom and just follow through, and I teach you the practices. You want to know the thunder magic practices? I teach them to you. So you can go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe, and if you don't like it, you can unsubscribe. You haven't lost anything. Bunky time. That's not a question. Daiji Dakodo question. How to protect myself from spirits or demons or practitioners trying to influence me? Again, go onto my channel and look for anything with demons or demon possession or exorcism. I give you specific instruction on how to do that. Kevin, that's not a question, so I'm not going to read that. David Turner, question. Years ago, I started Qigong and was loving the practice. After a few months of practice, a blue being approached me in a dream in a beautiful meadow. That's not a question. Question continued. But when I woke up, I was completely exhausted. The exhaustion stayed with me. Do you have any idea why this happened? Well, I have some ideas, but I'm just going to give you what happens with me. So I'm going to assume that this was a high-level being and that this was a real experience that you had, not your own unconscious, which is something that happens. One of the things that I've experienced, I haven't experienced what you've mentioned, but one of the things that I've experienced, and I experienced it every time I do this, when I do this practice, and to some extent these other stuff that I do, but especially this one, when I do this practice, what will happen is the level of energy will get to a certain level where it's just so incredibly powerful and blissful. And then I will conk out. Like, I do it at night because you're supposed to, number one. But I do it at night so that when I go to bed, I will just conk out. And literally you hit the mattress and you stay in one place for 8 hours. And then 8 hours later, I wake up and it's like I can't move. I feel like I don't have any energy left in my body. And then, I'll get myself out of bed. And then one of the things is I'll feel like I need to breathe, so I'll do some deep breathing. And this is when you feel what's really happened. You inhale. If you do this, you should, when you wake up in the morning, you should inhale very deeply a few times. You might even get dizzy doing it because so much energy rushes into your body. The reason is because when you do this, what ends up happening is that your aura, your energy body, is expanding. Like when you're going to the gym and you're lifting, you're expanding, you're working your energy body, and you're forcing your energy body to expand beyond its normal levels, which is making room for more life force energy so that your body's taking in and creating more life force energy. And just like when you go to the gym and then you wake up the next day and you can't move because your arms are stiff and you're tired, your spirit is the same. You can't move, you feel drained because you've been injected with such a high level of energy that your energy body had to expand, and now you have to adjust. The best way to do that is immediately do some deep breathing. And inhale, when you do it, like sit on the edge of your bed with your back straight and inhale. And then bring it down into the lower dantian and hold it. You can even squeeze the perineum and you may pass out. That's okay. You'll wake back up again. Just make sure you're sitting down so you lie back on the bed. But you might get very dizzy, and that's your energy body. So that sounds like what happened to you. Other than that, if that's not what happened, then I haven't had that experience, so I can't tell you. The other thing is, Qigong, technically this stuff is Qigong, and I teach a unified energy practice, which is Qigong, Kundalini, and technically Qigong, not Qigong, but Qigong. And Qi is the lightning energy that surrounds the soul in what is called the Emperor's bodyguard. It is lightning. It is pure lightning. It is a feminine energy that surrounds your soul. It protects your heart chakra from emotional damage, and it protects your soul from, the psychological damage that happens just from being a human. That lightning energy stays dormant, surrounding the soul. When you do Qigong, any of this stuff, when you do Qigong, which is working with that, you actually are tapping into a completely different energy. It works with Qi, but it isn't Qi. So in Qigong, if you practice Qigong at any depth, you know what I'm about to tell you, which is they'll tell you that you go from Jing to Qi to Shen. That is the masculine path of energy. That's a right-hand path of energy. The left-hand path, which is, I don't know anybody else who teaches it other than the Mao Shan. And I don't know anybody else who's actually teaching authentic Mao Shan energy work. There are Mao Shan magicians out there, and people who do those spells and those that. I don't do that. But the Mao Shan energy practitioners, to my knowledge, are the only people on the planet who actually know the movements that your body does, which will release the lightning energy into your aura, into your body, into your nervous system, which is why those guys could fight demons with their bare hands. And also why, the martial artists who use that were considered demon possessed, because nobody, even the guys with Qigong, the Qigong masters, they couldn't touch them because that energy was different. This lightning energy is different. So that's another reason why I might not understand exactly what you're going through, because if you're just doing Qigong, maybe you're on a different vibration than the stuff I'm doing. All right. So hopefully that answered your question. Maybe it didn't. I'm sorry if I was unable to answer the question for you. Let me get rid of. Should I even waste my time getting rid of the spam? Raymond Avich, Demon Slayer question. I did 2 times. What? I did 2 times what you can't talk about on your channel because of the Trusted News Initiative. Can I do something to reverse the effects? Go to COVID19criticalcare.com. That's COVID and then the numbers 19 and then criticalcare.com, and look for the protocols. And take, things like quercetin, you can the black seed oil, all the off prescription medication is very good for that. Do those things. Those things, if there are any negative side effects. By the way, if you feel healthy and you've been healthy for a while, you got nothing to worry about. But these things won't hurt you. They're only good for you. The pine needle tea, that stuff will be very good for what you're asking about. Bunky time. Question. Is there a way to heal scoliosis? I'm not a healer. I can't tell you something I don't know. I can't say whether there is or there isn't. So I wish I could answer you, but I can't. My suggestion is, however, if you do energy work, there's no way that won't help you. But being that I'm not a doctor and I'm not even a healer, I don't think it would be wise of me to say anything more than that. So I wish you all the best. But one thing I can tell you is that meditating about it, going into your own body and asking yourself why it's there. If it's karmic from a past life, you may become aware of that. And maybe that, if you resolve the past life karma, maybe that will heal it. I can't give you any guarantees, of course. If it's something that happened in this lifetime, maybe there's an energetic connection, but it certainly won't harm you, and it will only help you if you meditate and do energy work and try and understand, the spiritual significance behind it. I wish I could give you more information, but that's the best I have. RMS 1754 question. Does the Celestial Qigong also cultivate the lightning energy? Yes. The Celestial Qigong, if people are interested in that, you can go to Celestial, I believe, Qigong.com. It was one of the first things that I created, and it was actually, I was reverse engineering the Maoshan practices into a meditative and a posture and a Qigong form. So yes, the Celestial Qigong also stimulates the Shi, or the lightning power. Raymanovich Demon Slayer, don't worry about it. So I would still recommend going on to that website and getting those things. You can get them at, a lot of them you can get at the GNC. You can get quercetin and black seed oil. It will only it will only help you. Even if you don't have any side effects, it will be helpful for you. Reducing inflammation is what you want to do. And, this is what antioxidants do. This is why antioxidants keep people young, why people who are trying to find the fountain of youth, they do antioxidants like the things I just mentioned, or resveratrol. Those are all anti-inflammatories. And that's what you want to solve the potential problem that you're talking about, which I can't talk about. Olivia Rackley, honest feeling. I am so happy I have really come close to mastering both the metal and fire sets now. I'm giving it my everything. That is so awesome. I am so proud of you, Olivia. And I'm really looking forward to working with you on your elements. She's somebody who is working the Maoshan 5-element practices. So congratulations. Daiji Dokodu question. How do we store the internal energies generated by the practices on your site? It's a great question. And that question is actually coming from the right-hand path of Qigong, which is Jing to Qi to Shen. In that path, When you do normal Qigong, you have to store the energy. So there's a lot of meditating on the navel center. In fact, I know a guy who's a Qigong healer. And years ago, I was doing the Maoshan practice, which I didn't realize was the lightning center. I didn't know there was a difference. But he would talk about what he had to do to generate the energy to heal people. And he would sit and meditation and focus on the navel for hours and hours and build up this chi energy. And he said, no, I have to build it up in my dantian and then I release it out my hands. And then he would have to go and meditate to replenish it. And I would say, that's strange because I don't have to do that. I simply just learn these practices, which opens up meridians and connects me to energy. And that energy is available to me all the time now. I don't have to store it. I just kind of relax and flow with it, and it flows out of me. And if I practice the exercises, I get more and more energy, but I don't have to store it anywhere. So to answer your question, how do you store the internal energies generated by the practice on your site? You don't have to. You do need to ground yourself after the practice, which means bring all the energy into your navel center by doing simple techniques that I teach you how to do or basic Qigong can do. But in terms of having you don't have to go through that. That's the right-hand path of the Jing to Qi to Shen. The path that is the left-hand path, which is what I practice and what I teach, is Qi to Shi to Yi. So what you end up being able to do with this lightning power is intend reality. This is one of the things that made the Maoshan so frightening, was that they could just simply intend things. I mean, the stuff that they were capable of doing. I don't focus on that stuff anymore. I just focus on being healthy and happy. I don't know if I answered your question or not. So doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. I teach you everything you need to learn. It's very simple. And my suggestion is go give it a try. If you want to give it a try, you can subscribe to the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. That is, the Maoshan energy is in there. And if you don't like it, you can unsubscribe whenever you want. But you got nothing to lose. I would recommend doing it now before we get towards we're at the 20th. Now, if I'm being honest, if somebody decides to go and subscribe now, since it's the 20th of February, by the 1st of the month, just message me and say, I signed up last month and I will refund you this month. Or you can just wait until the 1st so that you don't have to get double charged. It's up to you. Absalom, question. Are people with autism more easily open to spirituality than neurotypicals? Are you somebody with, first, before I answer your question, you have to tell me, are you somebody with autism? Bunky time, that is not a question. So you're welcome. Okay, so bunky time, when you have a question, I need you to write the word question. So otherwise I won't take it seriously. So you did ask me a question at the end there. You say, I wasn't kind to people who have passed already. What do I do? Well, what do you do with anybody? I mean, here's the thing. People, look, whether it's a demon, whether it's a ghost, whether it's an ancestor, I mean, what would you do if you were mean to your neighbor? And then you realized I've been mean to my neighbor. What would you do? You would go over to your neighbor's house and you would knock on the door and you would say, hey, I just want to apologize. I know I was really mean to you the other day. And hey, can I take you out to dinner or go buy them a gift? Do something. So if you haven't been nice to people who've passed already, so then do something nice. Light a candle, say something nice to them, wish them well, have positive feelings, ask them for their help. This is the thing, the other dimensions, this is, anyway, bottom line is just common sense answer to that question. Absalom, yes, but not high typical. It's a good, you didn't it's not, you answered quickly, but sometimes people will just, I'll ask a question and then I'll get around to seeing their answer 20 minutes later and they'll say yes. And I'll say, yes, what? I won't know what they're talking about. It's good to actually write out everything. Yes, I am autistic. Yes, but not high typical. So you're asking me, what you're really asking me for is you're wanting me to co-sign your fantasy, which I'm not saying is or isn't true, but you're wanting me to co-sign your fantasy that you are more easily open to spirituality than neurotypicals. What I will tell you what I have learned about people with autism. People with autism, even though they're not, it's something totally different. They sometimes come off as though they're narcissistic. They have very black and white thinking. They also can feel very superior and self-righteous, and they get self-righteously indignant. So they come across like narcissists. And that is a question a narcissist would ask. Am I special? So I honestly don't know. My instinct says no, there's really nothing more spiritual about you than a neurotypical. In fact, I think the narcissistic aspect, the self-righteousness, and again, you're not doing this on purpose. It's part of, the specific of your condition. Those things don't help you. In fact, what I would suggest if you want to be more connected spiritually is to try and be more like neurotypicals in those sense. Try to not think in dualistic terms. Try not to be judgmental. Try to be aware of when you feel superior to others, when you don't value other people's boundaries. Those are the kinds of things that people with autism sometimes do without realizing it. And you didn't realize it there, but you had kind of an autistic moment by saying you were superior to the rest of us because you are more spiritually, because of your condition. And I don't think that's the case. I don't think you're any more or less spiritually open than anybody else. I think the fact that you're autistic is just a detail. I don't think it helps you one way or another. But the narcissism involved in it may make you feel that way. All right? So I apologize if anything I said was hurtful or offensive, but I tell people the truth to the best of my ability, and that's my honest opinion. All right, so Bonky time, I really need you to listen. This is the third time. If you're going to ask a question, I need you to write the word question. Otherwise, I don't want to deal with it. So you're throwing a bunch of stuff at me. I would also like for you to stop, breathe a little bit, think things, take a little more time with what you want to say. You say, I think I'm suffering from a lot of negative karma. I wouldn't think of it like that. Instead of negative karma, what you are experiencing, and you can watch this on my channel, are challenges that you've chosen in order to become more powerful. But they're challenging. It's not negative karma. And I've repented. This isn't Christianity. You don't need to repent. There's no God up there that narcissistically is looking down on you, wanting your repentance. You don't need to repent. There's no guilt. There's no shame. Everybody's doing their best. You've made mistakes. You were harmful. Great. You're aware of it. That's you've gotten the forgiveness just by becoming aware of it in terms of the universe. I already answered that question. My apologies. I was totally wrong. I thought you had written that a third time. That was my fault. My bad. Please take back everything all of my criticism about you. That's an old question that I was reading a second time. RMS 1754 question. Mahadeva, in your experience, does the Shen roam outside the body during sleep? Yes. Black Earth Productions question. What is the most malevolent force you have ever dealt with? You ready for this? You're going to like this one. The most malevolent force I've ever dealt with, and we're talking about I have fought demons with my bare hands. I have done exorcisms and seen people turn into demons. I have been in the presence of very evil spiritual forces. Anyway, the most malevolent force that I have ever dealt with was a woman who had borderline personality disorder. The evil within her was the most evil, destructive, and it wasn't a demon. It was her own, unfortunately, her own very tragic trauma had created some horrific negativity that was nothing short of evil. In fact, all kinds of really crazy, weird, magical, negative things happened when we were together. Things like, the sky darkening up and lightning striking in the, really frightening stuff. Me doing and saying things backwards. It was just like being completely like just somebody completely putting me in a fog and feeling like I was in the presence of it's just the most evil. So to answer your question, it was somebody who had a severe mental illness. That was the most evil experience I've ever had. Chris Dave Vincenzi on his feeling, I feel so empowered and happy by doing mantra work. It's the icing on the cake for all of the energy practices I've learned from you. I'm really happy to hear that. By the way, Chris, I haven't forgotten about your healing certificate. So since there's been 2 other people who have also chosen to get that. So I will get that to you. So forgive me about that. I know you've been waiting around for that. And where would somebody go if they wanted to do that? Let me see if I remember is that it? Healing.thunderwizard.com. Let's see if that's it. Nope. Healing certificate? Healing certification. I bet you that's it. Healing certificate. Yeah. No, not certification. Certification. Let's see if that's it. What do you know? That's it. So if anybody wants to get healed in a distance healing from me and get certified to do that, you can go to healing certification. I'll write it down here. Healing certification.thunderwizard.com. Healing certification.thunderwizard.com. Vincent.thunderwizard.com. Honest feeling. I'm actively dating and I'm scared of intimacy and getting into a relationship. You and me both. I'm not dating, but if I was, I'd have that same feeling. I totally relate. Guy home. Honest feeling. Christian or monotheistic demonology makes me feel bad. I don't know what do you mean by feel bad? What exact feeling? So frightening. It tricks you to pray, fear, and lose contact with ancestors because of conflates. Oh, got it. Yeah, I understand what you mean. It does. It's, Christians need the devil. Without the devil, there's no need to become Christian. That's the selling point. You frighten people with hell, and if you don't become Christian, Satan will steal your soul. And without that, why would anybody do that? You need to be saved because there's an evil being that's trying to destroy you. So I agree with you. Flux Pavilion question. What happens on an energetic level during an exorcism? I don't understand the question. I mean, it's pretty clear, isn't it? A lot of thinking there. I think you're overthinking it. What happens on an energetic level? The only thing that really ends up happening is that the individual decides to take responsibility for their unresolved emotions. The rest of it is all smoke and mirrors. And I stopped doing exorcisms because I became aware that what these people really needed was to go and see a psychologist and work through their unresolved issues. that me casting demons out of them really just distracted them, and at best gave them a week or two of, of being free. But then they started to have their feelings, and then they'd unconsciously invite the demon back. So I don't have an answer to your question, because to me it's too intellectual, and I don't care. I just know that it's an ugly thing, and I stopped doing it for that reason. The spirit fighting is a whole different deal. Spirit fighting, doing the practices, if I do the practices and I happen to be around a negative spirit, that's a whole different deal. That's not the same. That's sort of like you find a punching bag. But again, these aren't people. These are roaming emotional energies with consciousness, temporary consciousness. And all I'm doing is I'm just putting it back into the universe, putting the energy back into the universe. So there you go. That's the energetic level during the exorcism. If you actually destroy the demon, you're just returning the energy back to the universe. Daiji Daikodo, welcome to my channel. Again, I'd invite you to spend more time on my channel learning what it is that I teach, because I have videos about this, what you're asking. What does escape reincarnation mean in your program? First off, I feel like I'm being tested, and I don't want to be tested. If you have a belief about escaping reincarnation, I'm happy for you, but I don't really want to go through the litany of here's what I believe, and then you're going to test me to see if you like what I say, to see if it vibes with you. I don't really care, to be honest. I have an opinion about what reincarnation is, and I have videos and I talk about it. Search the channel, you'll find out. But I'm not attached to my belief. When it comes to the energy practice, because my program is really about the energy practice. My program isn't about talk. It's not about religion. I do that here, and it's great, but all I'm trying to do is get you in a frame of mind so you go do the work or go live your life. What you actually believe, I don't care about, and I don't need to have an opinion about. I have an opinion, but I'm not attached to it. So my suggestion to you again is watch more of the videos, learn what I teach, and decide if it's something that'll be beneficial for you or not. Raymanovich Demon Slayer. Question: how long will there be a discount on the lockdown package? When there's no longer a discount. How's that for an answer? I don't have an answer for you. Daiji Daikoto question: in the thunder magic teaching you teach, do you teach us to protect ourselves from spirits, demons? Again, if you watch my videos, you'd know. You're not asking me the real question you want to ask, which is that you're afraid. And you believe that spirits and demons can hurt you. And so you're asking me all these questions because you think if you ask me enough questions about reincarnation and about demons and about that, then you'll feel safe. You won't. Just do the practice. I guarantee you, if you do the practice, nothing can touch you. Even if you don't do my practice, if somebody believes that demons and spirits can touch them, they don't understand what demons and spirits are, and they don't understand who they are. When you understand who you are, nothing, no human, no spirit, no demon, no ghost can touch you. Nothing can happen to you without your permission. So, Daiji, my suggestion to you is to stop asking all these questions. Stop. You're in your head, your fear. Do the practice. If you don't want to subscribe, go on my channel and find the free stuff. Find the Hool Breath. Find Thor's Belt. Find the Heaven-Earth Meditation. Do everybody, if you want the most powerful free practice that I have. Oh my God, everybody, I've got everybody's attention now. The most powerful free practice I have, if you put the time to go looking for it on my channel, is the Awakening the Immortals Qigong. That is very powerful Maoshan energy, which is opening up the lightning. You want to figure out what it feels like? Go do that. If you like it, you want more, you got some here and here. All right, let's see. RMS 1754 question, Mahadeva, did you exorcise the woman with person? No, I didn't exorcise her because she didn't need it. You're not understanding what I said. I said she wasn't possessed. And it confirmed what I knew. She wasn't possessed, meaning a floating, spirit of rage didn't come into her and possess her. Her spirit was damaged. Her human spirit was damaged because of, if you know anything about mental illness, personality disorders, they are very oftentimes caused by horrific abuse. She was somebody, sadly, who, and it pains me to say it, she suffered horrific abuse as a small child. And it damaged her to, as much as a person can be damaged and still be alive. And what I experienced as evil was she's just in a lot of pain. And she honestly doesn't want to hurt anybody. She really wants to love and be kind to everybody, but she's got a really serious mental illness that makes her do really horrible things to other people. So, answer that question. So an honest feeling, Daiji. An honest feeling is I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm confused. You're explaining yourself, you're defending yourself. And if you want to get on my good side, don't double down. Instead of telling me that I'm wrong, I'm telling you the effect of what you're doing. And I'm telling you what I'm seeing in my third eye of what's going on in your unconscious mind, meaning you're not aware of it. The best thing you can do if it hits you and you're not doing that and you think that I'm criticizing you, instead go and meditate on it. Don't double down. Don't argue with me. Don't explain it away. If you want to get the most out of my channel, look, I don't know if you're from Eastern descent, you've got a Japanese name. You don't go to the sensei or the sifu and start saying, no, that's not what I meant. You say, yes, sifu, even if you don't understand or agree. If you want to show me that you want to learn from me, I'm telling you. And I'm telling you this not because I'm trying to be a pain in the ass controlling teacher. This is how the universe works. When you want to work with the ancestors and they tell you something, you don't argue with them about it. You listen, you take it in, you meditate on it so that you can become conscious of what is unconscious. What else? Tuts Sayozdi question. Would you consider the lightning Qigong and Mao Shan spirit fighting to be Feng Shi Taoism? If I considered it to be Feng Shi Taoism, I would say it was Feng Shi Taoism. Mao Shan is Mao Shan. What, you know enough about Taoism to throw that word out there? I've never heard of that. Are you aware that Mao Shan was the original Taoist mountain? It is the original practice from all of the other Taoist mountains got their information from. You know enough about Taoism to say that, but you don't know where Mao Shan came from? I'm interested in the Feng Shi roots of Shang-Xing lineage. Oh, there you go. So see, I don't even know what the hell that word means, Feng Shi. I don't know what the... Shang-Qing, yes. Shang-Qing is Mao Shan. So if Feng Shi means Shang-Qing, then yes. I wouldn't consider it because I had never heard of that word before. Listen, guys, I am not an intellectual. I've learned through practical, actual, physical doing it. I teach it because I know how to do it and I know how it works. I'm not, book knowledge is great, but if you can't take book knowledge and turn it into something practical, then it's no better than toilet paper. I only know based on experience. So there's a lot of the academic stuff that I don't have the first clue about. Queen of Pentacles, if you have a question, write the word question. Have you ever had any encounters with dragons? Probably not in the way you're asking. I don't know. I do have videos on dragons if you want to go watch those. Bunky time question. If I make amends with the past, you mean people who are dead, will that stop all the bad karma and misfortune? Bunky time. I'm really holding back right now because I'm really wanting to come down on you hard for something that's not your fault, because you don't understand. You haven't been on my channel long enough to know the basics of what I teach. So everything you said in your question is based on a completely false assumption. And if you don't want me to get angry with you, please don't be a victim. Please. Whatever negative karma and misfortune you have, as bad as it may be, is your own creation. The ancestors didn't do it to you. You've either done it through your own self-directed negativity. Nobody's judging you. The universe isn't judging you. You're not bad, and it's not punishing you for doing bad things. You have taken actions against your own spirit that have taken you away from your own integrity, if that's how your misfortune has been created. If you were born into some karmic misfortune, it means that you, before you came here, you chose to have certain challenges. And one of the lessons is to stop being a victim. So there's a difference between mourning, having sadness and pain and acknowledging that and feeling like a victim. You're acting like a victim because a victim says, they're doing it to me. Somebody who's taking responsibility says, I'm very sad about this and I want to learn what I can do to shift this, to overcome this. So I invite you to learn that, to take that on, and to interact with me like that, because if you come at me like a victim, I'm going to want to get angry with you. So this really means you haven't spent enough time on my channel. So spend some time on my channel, watch my videos, especially videos about reincarnation and achieving enlightenment, and you won't ever ask me that kind of question ever again. Okay? So welcome to the channel. This is what I'm here for. I'm here to help everybody be the most powerful person that they can be. The most powerful, the happiest, the most prosperous in every possible way. That is my goal, and that's the only reason I'm here. It just so happens that spirituality is the most powerful way to achieve that. If there was another way, I'd focus on that. Okay, I don't see any more questions. I've been on for a while. It's actually almost midnight where I'm at. So I'm going to choose to end my time with you for the moment on this video. And I've once again would like to invite you to check out all of the links here. Because if you really want to get into some of the advanced work, that's where this is. If you don't want to, I've told you how to find all the free stuff. Put the time and effort into finding those videos. And there's all kinds of other stuff. Go to courses.thunderwizard.com to see all of the things and all the services that I offer. And that's it. Okay, guys, I wish you all the best. Thank you so much. I hope this was entertaining and educational. And let's see if I want to answer this question from Raymond. This is actually a pretty good question, even though it may not be coming from a place I like. But Raymond asks this question. Question: is there a moment when the universe starts adding pressure on you for refusing to take action? And if there is, how should you try to avoid it? First off, why are you trying to avoid anything? That's a victim mentality. Knock it off. Before I answer the question, which I'm getting ready to answer, let me just say that everybody, if you are alive, you have an opportunity in every single moment to take responsibility and take action. So it's never too late. It's one thing you should know. There are people, I've shared this and I believe this is true, people who claim to have been dying of cancer, like their body's riddled with cancer tumors and they die, in the hospital. And one woman died, and when she left her body, she was immediately, after she was looking at her body on the hospital bed, and then she was immediately taken to some beautiful place of nature, and she was surrounded with this love and with this power. And that love told her that the only thing she needed to do to be loved was exist. And this was such a huge revelation to her. In fact, she realized she'd spent her whole life trying to gain other people's love and approval, and that's what gave her cancer. And she knew that if she were to go back in her body, that awareness of all she needed to do was exist to be worthy of love, that would heal her. And sure enough, she, after talking to, I don't know, her father or whoever, she was sent back, and she woke up in her body, and she was in a lot of pain, and she knew she was going to heal. And the doctors were like, oh my God, the tumors are shrinking. So please drop all of the victim mentality. It doesn't serve you. You can be in pain. You can be confused. You can be frightened. But please get rid of any feelings of victim mentality. Please drop it. For your own sake. And Raymond, you and I have gone back and forth, and I got to tell you, you annoy the crap out of me because you are so committed to being a victim. And all of your questions are based on that. Your head runs, your little rabbit brain is running so fast, you're so full of fear and so full of insecurity. And it makes me want to, because I can see in you that you can be everything that you want if you could just stop. Just stop with the victim mentality already. And deal with the pain and take the action. So you already know that. I've told you that a bunch of times. Having said that, is there a time when the universe will put pressure on you? I don't know if and trying to avoid the pressure is stupid. Stop trying to avoid anything, please. Face all of your challenges as an opportunity. Be a man about it, Raymond. Stop being afraid of opportunities to grow. I mean, you can be afraid, but just anyway. And you'll only know when you start interacting with life proactively, you'll know what I'm talking about. And until then, you won't. And you won't know it until you do it. But to answer your question, there will come a point. If somebody, and you're not there yet, trust me, you're not there yet. You're not even close. But there will come a point. I'll give you an example of somebody that I know. The most talented guitarist I have ever heard in my life. This guy, I mean, I get chills thinking about it. This guy was born with a gift. He was a genius. He was the best guitarist ever. He could have been the most famous, well-known guitarist in the history of guitarists. And he, unfortunately, was a drug addict. And he had some other mental issues. And he kept on sabotaging himself. He was very narcissistic, and he would use people and throw them away. And he would lie. And he couldn't stay in a band for very long because he would end up getting into ego, even if it was his band. He would get into ego problems with his own band members, and he would sabotage his own success. And, he ended up, last time I saw him, last time I physically saw him, he was on opiates, and he was barely functioning, and he ended up losing his wife and his family, and he complained the whole way and said, it's not me, and I'm a victim, and he kept on, he just didn't go and get sober and get control of his life. And the last time I saw him on Facebook was he was complaining about they're doing it to me and I'm a victim and this is all blah blah. And then he disappeared. And now I was friends with his brother as well, and I asked him and I said, "Hey, have you talked to so and so lately?" And he said, "Yeah, he's in a halfway house and he can't remember anything for more than 10 seconds at a time." And the last state before he was put into this halfway house was he was living in Idaho in winter, which is very cold, under an overpass, drinking Listerine, and it just he destroyed him. And he'll never recover. He'll never pick up a guitar again. He'll never remember his name. He'll never be able to hold a conversation for more than 10 seconds. He'll never be able to be out of any assisted living. And it's because at some point you go past the point of no return. Raymond, stop being such a pussy. You're nowhere near that. Just get up off your ass and go do what you need to do. Please. So that I don't have to be annoyed by you anymore, because I know that you can do it, and it drives me crazy that you keep asking these questions instead of just taking action and doing it. Let's see. Or should I try to avoid it? Stop arguing with me. I told you, just stop trying to avoid anything. And don't argue with me. Bugs me. Drive me crazy. Guy home. Question. Are demons a projection of our own fears? No. No. Guy home, no. That's not right. Okay. I don't know what that is, but we're definitely getting rid of that. Okay. Raymanovich, Demon Slayer. Question. But I just want to understand, how do you know I'm not even going to deal with it. Get up off your ass, do the work. Stop it. You're driving me crazy. Okay, what else? Is that it? Nothing else. Okay, so that's it for me, guys. I'm starting to get cranky, so I need to go eat some food and relax. I wish you guys all the best, and I will see you all very soon, and take care of yourselves.